You are watching the video version of the Marketing Should Be Fun podcast. We are so glad that you are here. If you prefer to listen to podcasts, you can find the Marketing Should Be Fun show on any of your favorite podcast platforms, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere else. But most of all, we're so glad you're here, and I hope that you enjoy today's conversation. Well, welcome back to another episode of Marketing Should Be Fun. My name's Austin Savage, and I'm here with my friend and business partner, Kelsie Zarko. Kelsie, happy holiday season. Happy close to the year. Happy Tuesday as we're recording this.
All of those things are accurate. And I'm drinking out of my gingerbread mug. So if you're watching the video version,
literally
hopefully
the
you
best.
feel extra festive.
Normally, before we record an episode, I always get a fresh cup of coffee, and I did not do that. I have this fun little 95 Network mug where I used to work, and it's just a bunch of cold coffee there.
That's
And
so sad.
It's like, it's really sad because I'm like, my body wants me to drink it, but my brain knows that that's a terrible decision. And so
it will not go well for you.
It's tough. It is the holiday season. We're approaching Christmas, which for both of us is one of our favorite times of the year. And so I have a holiday this or that for us today.
Okay.
And I honestly don't know. I feel like this is something that you don't do. And so we're going to find out if you have a reason or not. But you got kids. I got kids. Elf on the Shelf or no?
100% no. That is my forceful, confident answer.
Wow. Why so forceful? Why so confident?
Well, I think it's actually really fun. Every year I see everyone doing it and I get a little bit of FOMO because I'm like, oh, it looks so creative. And I like to, do creative things like that. But I'm also very thankful that I don't have to remember to do it every day. I think the reason we don't is just because we just have never been big Santa people. I didn't grow up with it. And my oldest is,
you didn't grow up with Santa?
No, it wasn't a thing. And I mean, I knew it wasn't like we didn't ever talk about him and it, we didn't have any exposure, but it was just it wasn't a thing at Christmas that Santa. Well, I don't know who's listening to this podcast. So listen how you want to listen. If you have kids in the car, I just knew it was my parents. I just did. And so my oldest, I am fine to perpetuate the magic and do all the things. I don't have a problem with it. But my oldest is very, what is the word you would use to describe her? She's just very, not skeptical, but just practical. And she just kind of has a little bit of an adult brain. And so she always saw through. Again, I hope I'm not ruining anything for any kids listening in the car, but she didn't believe in the tooth fairy. She just figured it out. And so we have just always talked about how Santa is a super fun tradition and we don't ruin it for other people, but it wasn't a thing. So then it didn't make sense to have Elf on the Shelf because it's not like Santa sent him to our house. She would have seen through that right away.
Yeah, totally. That is very fair. We are an Elf on the Shelf family. It's very fun. We have our little guy named Henry.
Henry, and, that's so cute.
Yeah, he comes back every year, writes the kids notes, fun things like that. The one thing I always see across social media is the elves who get into mischief, and I'm like, that doesn't fully make sense to me because I'm like, we don't really play it up in the sense of he's watching you, you got to be good, that kind of aspect of it, because I think that's kind of that's a little intense. But it is fun that it's just he just it's a game of hide and seek every morning for the kids of where's the elf? And then we constantly have to remind our son not to touch the elf. And it's impossible if you tell the kid not to do something, he's gonna do it. We'll come down, he's he's stacked up a chair and a little step stool on top, and he's trying to reach it. We're like, dude, it's gonna lose its magic.
That's awesome. If you like to consume content, this is one of my favorite people on Instagram, is Amber Massey. You have to go watch her stories, but she does Elf on the Shelf. Okay. Really big. And it's really cute. Her kids are so precious with it. But one of her younger boys has just like always wanted magic gloves to be able to hold the elf. And he like writes a note to the elf every single day and like begs and begs. And so today he got the magic gloves, and he got to like put them on and like snuggle the elf. And it was like, it made his whole day. So it was so precious to watch. So I can totally get behind the sweetness and the magic of it. We just have never done it.
That's so fun. That is fun. We definitely do like the magic of Christmas and like Santa and stuff like that. Like I always, even when I was like when Larissa and I were first married, I would still like use the Santa tracker on Christmas Eve because I just thought it was fun to be like, like even though it's like not a real, anyways, I just would enjoy kind of the thought of it and the story of it. I think it's cool. So
yeah, it's very just like nostalgic and traditional, which is exciting. It's an exciting time of year. But it is not just exciting time of year because it's Christmas. It's an exciting time of year because we have a real life author in our midst, ladies and gentlemen. A real life author. No, I'm so excited to talk to you about it. We've never had a real live author, I don't think. Well, we've had a real live author on our show maybe one time. But now we have
I guess that's true.
Second time.
That is true.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So here's what happened. If you're not aware and you're wondering why we are celebrating this momentous, famous occasion where I'm going to ask for all the autographs.
I should have brought like a little, like the little confetti popper where it's like, ding, ding.
You should have. I should have brought that for you. But for those listening, Austin is an author. He published a book series. And so Austin, give us like the 30-second rundown of like what the series is. It's behind you. It's beautiful. Yes.
So very excited. Yeah. If you're watching the video version, it is behind me. It's probably backwards, but maybe we'll flip it around in post-production. I don't know. It's called the 101 Affirmations Coffee Table Book Series. So the whole purpose of the series, affirmations are a big part of my life. And as I've been an entrepreneur for a few years, it's something that's been really important to how I kind of foster my own confidence, but also foster the confidence of my team and the people I work with and interact with. And so this series is just designed to increase your vocabulary for affirmation. So there's 3 books. The first one is 101 Affirmations to Give Yourself. The second one is 101 Affirmations to Give Your Team. So kind of like as a leader, whether you lead, a whole company or just like a team within a company, they're just like great phrases to use with the people you lead. And then the last one is 101 Affirmations to Give Someone You Love. So that's not just for romantic relationships necessarily, though there's a lot in there that work great for those, but even, parent to child, a friend, anyone you could kind of consider a loved one. The affirmations in that book are great in that context as well. There's the overview.
I love it. That was a great overview. I was like, wow, did you like practice that? That was so clear.
I didn't. I was kind of nervous the whole time. I was like, I'm going to forget something.
I know. For those of you listening, I told Austin that I was going to like give him a little author interview to hear more about his series. And I was like, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions that I haven't let you prepare for so that you're just really nervous. So you're doing great. I'm totally kidding. I'm not going to try to make you nervous, but since we've been working together, when I first started working with you, had us take a working genius assessment and kind of talked through, and helps us figure out like what our skills are and our kind of like superpowers and just things that are natural to us. And one of yours is the working genius of invention and just like ideas and coming up with
truth
and like wonder and all of those things. And so I would love to hear more about like where, I know you talked about how this is always, affirmations have always been something that have helped you and have helped you with those around you. But when did the like idea really spark for the book series, and like how did it come about?
That is a great question. And I wish you had told me this one so I could remember. I do think, I always have ideas popping in my head. I'm like, I've just like random things like, oh, that would be really cool. Or, oh, this is like, something that would just be, a fun thing to do someday in my life. And so I feel like a lot of my energy is spent just like putting ideas aside instead of like, coming up with them. But I do think, I came up with this idea. It was a full 2 years ago. And it was at the end of my first year of like being an entrepreneur. And it was exciting. It was fun. And originally the idea really came from the conversations that we would have with clients. Like, I just remember, this isn't like what I expected entrepreneurship to be like, but I just remember that I just looked back at that year and I was like, I feel like I spent 25 to 30% of my time this year, like, encouraging people to believe in themselves.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, we would be on calls and like, we would literally hear people say like, nobody wants to hear my voice. Like, nobody wants to see me be the face of this idea. Like, I don't know enough to bring this to life, or, you know, I've never been a business owner before, so it doesn't really make sense for me to, you know, to create this idea or this nonprofit or this, you know, fill in the blank, whatever kind of it was. And so over and over again, we would be encouraging people of like, no, like, your voice does matter. Like, people do care about your journey. They care about the story that you're telling with your life. They care about the unique lens that you have to bring to that thing. You're not too young. You're not too old. I mean, the list just goes on. Like, we were just constantly saying these things. And so I feel like originally, you know, this series was like, I just wanted to make that easy for people, that it was like, that self-talk, like positive statements like that, it's really hard for, I think, the majority of people to think of those things. Like, it's very easy for us to say like, I'm not good at this, or I don't know what I'm doing, or, you know, those kind of like negative phrases. But it's hard to think of like, how do I flip that? And like, how do I start thinking more positively, but also just with like an opportunity mindset as I look at the world. And so that was the start of the kind of like 101 affirmations to give yourself. And the rest kind of flowed sort of naturally as I kind of thought of that. I know you've kind of encouraged me as a leader, and like you Kelsie, have always felt like I have carried affirmations into the way I lead people.
Yep.
And so I know for that book, that was just something that I wanted to also make easy for other leaders as well. For the second book in the series is, you know, it's not easy as a leader to like step back from like the grind of like needing to get stuff done, or like giving feedback to a team member, you know, things like that, to be like, hey, I just want you to know that you're doing a great job, or I appreciate the timeliness that you give to every task, or we literally wouldn't have completed this project without you. So thank you for the time and the energy and the thought that you gave to it. It's often a second, third, fourth kind of like last thought for a lot of leaders. And so the goal with that one is, you know, it is just something that you can open and just be like, these are phrases that you can just text to a different team member every day, and just make it easy. So I'm getting long-winded now, but I feel like that's just really where it sort of trickled down from those conversations we had in that first year of business.
Yeah, definitely. I can totally affirm what you just said. That is so true. You naturally have the gift of these phrases coming out of you. Like, you are quick to think of, especially I was on a lot of those first calls with people where we were hearing that all the time, of just the second guessing and the lack of confidence.
Yeah.
And it took you no time to think of the things to say back to them to combat them. And so I love that you put that into a book to give other people, like you said, the vocabulary to be able to do that just as quickly, even if it doesn't come to your mind naturally. So they're going to be a huge gift for people.
Yeah.
I have some author questions.
Thank
you ready for that?
Okay. I have author answers.
Awesome. Okay. So what was the hardest part of writing it? Like, what was the hardest part of the process?
Finishing them. You mentioned that that my working genius, or one of those, is invention. The other, one of my bottom ones is tenacity, which is like getting things across the finish line.
Which is like my top one. I am someone that like,
I get inspired. I know. Which honestly, like, real like partnership with projects like this is like huge, because I get inspired. Like, inspiration is a big thing for me. Like, when I do feel inspired to do something, like, I will make a ton of progress on it. With a project like this, though, like, it is just a lengthy process to think through to actually write out the affirmations, but then to think through that each of them have like full introductions about the topic and how to use the books, and to go through the process of like getting ISBN numbers and making sure that the copyright information is accurate and that we have barcodes and like all of the like random things. Just a very detailed and lengthy process. So I think it was something for me that it was like I kept having these kind of pauses in productivity during it because I would maybe lose momentum and just have to kind of regain that inspiration for it. So I was really glad Mitch, who's on our team, was designing it. He did a great job on the designs. I was glad to have support on that front. I know that you consistently were reading them and editing them, which was like such a huge support. And you were like, yeah, you should finish that book series. And you were encouraging me the whole way. My wife was doing the same. And so I think that just getting them across the finish line was probably the hardest part of it. But it was like also the thing that I'm like most proud of about the series is that it really did come to life.
Yeah. I am guessing a lot of our listeners can identify and resonate with that, of just that feeling of like, sometimes you don't feel inspired and sometimes you have to like grind it across the finish line. And so not that it necessarily is unique to just authorship, but I hope that inspires someone today who is maybe feeling that way right now. Like that is true of all content, that some days you don't feel inspired and some days you can set it aside and wait till you're inspired. But it is normal to sometimes have to grind something across the finish line a little bit. And so, yeah, can totally identify with that.
Yeah.
How would you explain? So we are a content marketing agency. You love to create content. You have your whole life. How are these books content marketing?
Heck yeah. I mean, they are pieces of content. I was actually just thinking about that the other day. Cause we've said that before on, I don't remember which. We have far too many episodes now of this podcast to remember specific episodes. But on one episode, we were talking about how books are pieces of content. I think it was actually the interview that I did with my mom.
Okay.
With Jill Savage is her name. I mean, that was a while back, but I think that I talked with her about it. And it's a great reminder, like content marketing is just value that you are giving to people in the form of words, pictures, audio, video, anything. And sometimes that is in the form of a print, a book. And so for us, I mean, the goal for this series is to help people increase their vocabulary for affirmation. But we also very intentionally connected that very, very naturally back to our work at Savage Content Collective. So, in the introduction, I mention in our work as a content marketing agency, like here are some of the things that we see. You'll see that there are like just even like links back to our company, like at the end of the book. And it is something that it's like our philosophy of value first, ask second. I think like the way that we sort of formatted these books is really trying to emphasize that is like, this book is for you. It's to help you. But we also just want you to know that like we do own a content marketing agency. And so like if this is something that sparks like, oh, I could use support in this idea, or I'm curious a little bit more about what they do or the people that created this resource. It's a very kind of natural sort of introduction or on-ramp into people getting more involved with us or following along with our content as well. That's our hope, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. I really wanted to talk about that concept on this episode at this time of year, because I imagine a lot of our listeners are thinking through their content strategy and just ideas and kind of new dreams for the new year. This is a natural time where we start to reflect back, look forward. And so I hope that gives you just a little nugget of inspiration if you're listening of normally, and most often, of course, our content marketing fits into some pretty standard buckets of social media, regardless, there's lots of platforms that can come in there, or email or blogs or podcasts, but to not feel like you have to be pigeonholed into staying there and thinking through like, what do you love to do and what excites you? And how could you use that to bring people value and to communicate your message and to pour into your audience? And I think your books are a great example of that.
Yeah. It's such like it. And I love the way that you phrase that it's just like you can be creative about what that looks like. Like, even if you're using the kind of like traditional sort of like pillars that we kind of look at, or categories, like, we're often thinking about blogs and podcasts and emails and social media. Like, even just working within those boxes, like, it's also okay to do something that's, maybe a little bit different, or, maybe is creative, but something that's memorable. And, I think you can be really thoughtful about the way that you're bringing that to the world in a way that's not only like valuable for your audience, but like is exciting for you personally. Like, I know for this book series, like, I personally am just very excited to show it to people. I'm very excited to get it into the hands of people. And they were like crazy expensive to make. So like, I'm not making very much money from these books. But it's like just something that was like, it gives me a fresh energy of like, this is something that is meaningful to me that I'm excited to share. And I think finding that angle for you and the content that you're creating, for those who are listening, is like really valuable, because it gives you that sort of fresh inspiration and care for telling others about the work that you're doing. So I do think that is just a really kind of valuable thing to think through, and kind of approaching content that way.
Yeah, especially at the beginning of the new year. Like, wouldn't we all want to start the new year with just finding things that are meaningful and exciting, and kind of launch out of that energy into a fresh year? So I love that. Okay, yeah. I've got one more question for you, and then I want to talk a little bit about just why affirmations and how they work, and then we're going to wrap it up with something pretty fun. Okay, so last question. When you think about who you are just most excited to pick up this book and read it, who kind of comes to mind for you? It doesn't have to be like one person, but like, what type of person, or a person in like what season of their journey? Like, who are you most excited and hopeful for this to reach?
I am very excited for a lot of people to get it, because I do think it holds value for like people at different stages. But what I am most excited for is that I hope that the affirmations in this series like launch new ideas into the world. Like, I hope that the kind of phrases here are things that settle in someone's mind, and are almost like that just foundation of confidence that lead to meaningful things being created in the world. I know that's just something that I personally like love. Like, I just love that concept and seeing that take place. But that's just also something that like I really want to foster in other people. So I think like a lot of that comes in. In each of the books, it's like the 101 affirmations to give yourself is like, it's really fostering that idea of like, your voice matters and your dream matters. And 101 affirmations to give your team is like helping leaders tell their people that their dream matters. Like, even if that means that you have to go do something that is totally separate from our company, like, we as leaders want to foster like what you're meant to do. And the same thing for 101 affirmations to give someone you love. It's like, we want to be encouraging that vision and that dream and that purpose within the people that we love. And so I hope that like, even if it's like 10 years down the line, I do get to hear some stories of like, hey, the messages that were in this just simple little coffee table book series were just a big part of me like remembering that I'm not too young, and people care about my voice, or that I wasn't too old to start that idea, and that I still have a unique lens to bring to every project and idea in my life. And whatever it is, I think that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, I love that. You have an innate ability to do this. And so I'm excited for people to be able to do the same thing, because you've given them the tools to be able to do it. So on air for everyone to hear, I'm so proud of you, and it's going to be great. Before we move into just a little something fun we want to leave you with, I did briefly want to just touch on affirmations in general, and maybe put some skin on what they do and what they are, and like why they work, for people who maybe don't know what that word is, or aren't familiar with it, or have maybe had some negative connotation attached to it. I've got some thoughts of my own, but I'd love to hear yours first.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts too. So affirmations are positive, true statements, even if they are things that are sometimes hard for us to believe. Affirmations are both true and positive, but oftentimes they're also aspirational. And so they are things that in my view are kind of at least these books, like they are things that just remind you of what is possible, remind you of truths about the world, truths about your place in it, truths about how you can carry yourself into uncomfortable or exciting situations, all of these things. And so I know in my life personally, I often use affirmations in a lot of ways. I regularly will put like Post-it notes around my house, where like I am just reminded of like I am a good dad. And on one hand, it's like that's encouraging to me of like I'm a good dad, but on the other hand, it's aspirational in a sense of like I also like I can live into that affirmation too. Like I can be a good dad today, and things like that. And so I know for me also, like everybody's going to use affirmations in a different way. But I know like, especially when I am feeling discouraged or I am feeling like, oh, I don't like actually know what to do in this situation, I find it's often helpful to like step back and just like remind myself of the truth that even though it's hard to believe in that moment, but the truth that like I can do hard things. Like I have navigated difficult situations in the past and I'm capable of doing so in the future. Statements like that, those are affirmations. And to kind of like carry that over too, those are things that we can remind ourselves. We can also remind those to other people. Oftentimes if we see someone who is maybe struggling with confidence or who is, being consistent, but maybe doesn't see their full potential, like we are able as a collective of humanity to support one another and push each other forward in meaningful ways. Affirmations are a great way to do that. What are your thoughts, Kelsie?
Well said. Yeah. So the story and concept that comes to mind for me with these is one that may be familiar to our listeners. It's one I've used with my daughter a lot to help her with her just self-talk and thinking. But that story of the person who said, don't think about purple, don't think about purple, don't think about purple. And so the only thing you're thinking about is purple. And then they're like, but if you tell yourself like, yeah, but if you tell yourself, think about white or, whatever other color, and you're able to replace it, that helps you get rid of thinking about purple and think about something new instead. And so affirmations to me, especially illustrate that because it's hard to just stop thinking about the hard failures or the hard discouragements or just the confusion or any of those things that don't serve us well. It's hard to just say, I'm not going to think about it, or I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to live into it. But if we replace it with something different and are able to tell ourselves that, there's a lot of power that comes into play there. And I think it's fascinating to even see like the science behind it and the things it does to our brain pathways and like the new thoughts that we're able to put into our brain and how those create literally like they change our brain. And so there is a lot of just really neat science behind it. And that I think is what I have been so encouraged by and been able to use in so many different ways in my life with myself, with people I work with my kids. I really see that right now with my kids at the ages they are of helping them be able to replace their thoughts with truth and renew their minds. And so that is what I love about affirmations.
Yeah. I remember when I was growing up, my mom used to say, she would say, you have to push through uncomfortable to find a new normal. And like anything new that we do is like uncomfortable. Like it's really awkward. It can feel like frustrating. And I think like even a simple thing like affirmations, it's like, it's really hard if we haven't done it very often to start telling ourselves positive things. And to like, for that to be, it isn't first nature. Like or it isn't second nature. Like it's something that we have to think about. We have to try. And it can be like really uncomfortable. But the cool thing is like, if we do it more and we get comfortable with it and we do push past that discomfort, it can become our new normal. And I think that's when it becomes like a really powerful tool, is when it's no longer something that like you are second guessing if you are capable of something, or second guessing if your vision or idea matters. Now it has become that just second nature thing to do, of like that's your first kind of the first place your brain is jumping to, because you have fostered that mindset for so long.
So true. Well said. I think this is also a really fun content idea for people listening to think through, like what affirmations does your target market or to your target audience maybe need to hear, and how can you put that into your content strategy and just use that to serve people. So kind of a little inspirational thought there. I also would encourage you, if you're listening, to go over to Austin's social media and just get a quick taste of what these books are like. He is at Austin_Savage on Instagram. You can find him through our business pages and website too. But he has read some of the forewords, given some examples, and let you kind of peek inside the books. So definitely go do that. But we also wanted to kind of wrap up this episode by giving you a peek inside the books and just reading you a few of the affirmations that you would find in there, and leave you encouraged in that way as well. So Austin, you want to jump into that?
I got it. So I'm reading from 101 Affirmations to Give Yourself. I figure I'll read 4 or 5 of these. So each of these has a kind of, for those on the video version, you can see has like a kind of large affirmation, then like some subtext to support each statement. So this is number 24. I don't know why I picked that, but I just did. Maybe because there's 24 days before Christmas.
That was amazing. Well done.
So this first one that we're going to read is, I am not behind. I'm where I'm supposed to be. And the subtext is, your journey is your own, and you don't need to compare yourself to where it appears like anyone else's. You are exactly where you need to be. Your energy is best utilized in deciding how you want to move forward from here. Number 25 is, I don't always have to exist at a fast pace. The subtext is, in fact, you can't. You get to set the pace you want to run at, but you are not falling behind when you take time for yourself or give yourself space to rest. Another one here is, I don't need to be an expert to pursue my passion. The description is, you are enough. None of us ever get to a place where we feel like we've arrived. Take the jump. You'll become more and more of an expert along the way. People desire to be brought along on your journey of becoming. They don't just want to hear a story of how you arrived. Number 27 is, I can accomplish more than I think I can. The description here is, too often we don't give ourselves nearly as much credit as we should. You have incredible gifts that can actually lead to changing the world in a meaningful way. I'll read one more. Number 28 is, courage is the gateway to dreams being realized. The description here is, following your dreams is scary, but you have bravery within you. You can choose today to be courageous. Find the courage within, and life will start to get really exciting. And there are 96 more. Is that the math? 90? Yeah, 96 more.
Oh, so good. I feel like just stopping it right there and letting that rest. But before we wrap it up, Austin, where can people find these books for themselves and for others?
Yeah, the best place to go. So if you go to savagecontent.co, currently there's just a big banner at the top that says, get the books in time for Christmas. And so you can click that. But if you want to go direct there, it's savagecontent.co/books. So not .com, it's .co. savagecontent.co/books is where you can find them.
Love it. You heard it here first. Austin, this is such a gift of yours, and one I've experienced personally working with you, and personally just seeing you and watching your journey as a person and as an entrepreneur. And so I am really excited for them to make their way into the world and to be able to pour into others as well.
Thank you.